We're going to continue talking about chemical bonding, specifically covalent bonding, and this is our third video on the Lewis diagrams. In this one, we're going to talk about polyatomic ions. Now remember, Lewis diagrams are nothing more than a method for drawing the structural formula of a molecule. We now have 6 steps because now we know how to do multiple bonds. You need your NASB table, figure out the central atom, write down the central atom and all the other elements around it. Draw your single bond between the central atom and the outer atoms. Subtract 2 electrons for each line drawn. Distribute the remaining electrons in pairs to complete the octets. But if you happen to run out of electrons before you've completed your octets, slide pairs of electrons from the outer to in between the outer and inner to make a multiple bond, and that will get it done. Now, if you have a polyatomic ion, you need an extra line in the NASB box. This line is for the extra electrons. Way to go is with an example. So what is the Lewis diagram for SO4 2-, the sulfate ion? We're going to follow the rules. So we start by filling out the NASB table, which you know how to do. We haven't taken into consideration the 2 electrons here. These need to be brought down here because those electrons are available. So now you change the table just slightly and you say, well, I've got 2-, so I have 2 extra electrons. Electrons do not need valence electrons, so that's 0. And now I have 2 more electrons available to me to place. Now I total things up. I need 40, but I have 32, so I need to share 8, and I should get 4 bonds. Next, you determine the central atom. The sulfur is less electronegative than the oxygen, so it will be the central atom. Now we write down the central atom and put the other elements around it, like so. We're going to draw single bonds between each of the oxygens and the sulfur. When we do that, we take away 8 available electrons. We still have 24 electrons to place. Now we're going to distribute the remaining electrons in pairs to complete the octets. And when we do that, we use up the last 24. Now you have to do the 6th step. Slide the pairs to form bonds if you run out of electrons, but we didn't here, so that step is moot. But there is one more thing that you have to do. To indicate that it's an ion, you have to put brackets around the Lewis diagram and put the charge up in the corner. You need the brackets and the charge. So that's really the only difference. Make sure you add the electrons and then make sure you put in the brackets and the charge. So to review, if you're dealing with a polyatomic ion, you're going to follow the usual 6 rules. However, you're going to add an extra line to the NASB table, and if it's a cation, and that's only ammonium, you're actually going to take away 1 electron from the available column because you've lost an electron. If it's an anion, you're going to add electrons, and the number of electrons you add is equal to the ionic charge to the available column. Do the usual stuff, then make sure you add brackets and charge. In the next video, we're going to deal with a topic called resonance.